Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome back. Guten Tag. Ich bin Khalid Muhammad Ariff. Ich spreche ein bisschen Deutsch. Minta maaf cakap Jerman sikit. Tukar mood pasal legal ni. Dia tengok mood juga. Now, I cubalah seberapa boleh this particular section ni dalam bahasa Melayu ataupun mix English. Saya terlupa, kadang-kadang cakap bahasa Melayu lupa bahasa Inggeris, cakap bahasa Inggeris lupa bahasa Melayu. So, dua-dua bahasa pun you faham kan, Jerman semua tak faham kan. Okay, no problem. Let me continue with this. Now, Regulation 12 ini dia berhubung dengan ketumpatan warna asap yang keluar daripada cerobong. This is specifically for emissions that is being released from stack. It's the color of emission we're talking about. Kalau dulu 1978 punya regulation tu is about black smoke, yeah. It's only about black smoke from Ringelmann chart yang kita pakai itu Ringelmann chart, itu bahasa Jerman sebenarnya. Ringelmann chart number 1 right up to number 5. Kita akan lihat sebentar lagi. But this particular regulation is not about black smoke. It's about opacity. Opacity. Dalam bahasa Melayunya kelegaman. I learned from young people in bahasa Melayu tu kelegaman. Okay, that's the language. That's the bahasa punya hal. So let's take a look at Regulation 12. What have we got here? Right. Welcome to Regulation 12. Ini salah satu perkara yang sangat penting dalam Clean Air Regulation 2014. Kalau you perhatikan, remember not Ringelmann chart yang you pakai tu 0 lah, alright? And then number 1, number 2, dia darker sikit number 3, tapi ini semua relative to what smoke color? Black, right? Tapi sekarang ni you tengok, it's not about black color anymore. The word that is being used in the law is about that. It's about opacity, kelegaman. Now, yeah. So this Ringelmann chart is according to Regulation 12 ini dia adalah mengawal atau regulate betapa legamnya asap yang dikeluarkan oleh stack. Tidak kira asap itu warna hitam ke, kelabu ke, kuning ke, biru ke, hijau ke, merah ke, brown ke. Setakat ni belum jumpa lagi warna yang keluar tu purple lah, tapi minta-minta jangan ada lah warna purple asap ni kan. But anyway, all this color is allowed under the law. But how are they regulated? They are regulated by means of looking at the opacity, kelegaman asap itu. Kelegaman warna asap itu. Dalam bahasa lain, intensity asap itu. Kepekatan asap itu. Kalau makin pekat, makin kurang opacity. So, number 5 ni, kalau you perhatikan, adalah sangat pekat. So, is it opaque? Least opaque. Paling tinggi density. Cahaya tidak boleh telus langsung. That is number 5. Alright, nampak? And kalau kita tengok number 4 ni pula, number 4 ni, cahaya itu boleh telus sedikit. Bermakna slightly opaque. Okay, dia tidak sampai translucent, dia opaque. The light can still passes through that particular smoke. Maksudnya ada sedikit kurang density atau kepekatannya. Begitulah juga maksud number 3, dia lebih menjernih, boleh sebut macam tu. Menjernih is getting lighter and lighter. Number 2. Number 1 is lightest, and 0 of course no emission. Itu bukan no emission, maksud no emission of color ataupun what sort or whatever color yang keluar. It is totally allowable. Now, what does Regulation 12 say? So we have seen that is on Ringelmann chart. Now we'll come to transmissometer. Transmissometer, this is really not English word. This is really not a, well, we have done, I did 2 semesters of instrumental analysis. I'm quite used to atomic absorption spectrophotometer, GCMS, but I have not seen transmissometer. Rupanya transmissometer, kalau you ingat kilang kelapa sawit dulu, dia ada pakai chart pelepasan asap daripada kilang kelapa sawit. Dia ada sensor yang dipasang di stack. That sensor is emitting light. Dia guna photocell. When there is more light passing, so the ray of light across the photocell, which is installed in any part of the chimney diameter where it can sense smoke from the chimney, it will transmit electronic impulse to a receiving meter. Dia guna logarithm, so you're going to reverse logarithm. So when there is no smoke or dust passing through, the meter will read 0 Ringelmann chart, 0 opacity. When there is smoke which is highly dense and the maximum of the scale, then no light literally pass through between the emitter of the light and the photocell, disebabkan dia block oleh habuk ataupun asap yang sangat hitam sehingga padat. Then the reading pada dia punya transmissometer dia itu 100. You reverse. All right, so that's transmissometer. If you are in the palm oil mill, I think you have the luxury to look at this particular instrument. One of these days I may be showing you some examples of these meters bila kita buat maybe environmental monitoring dan sebagainya. We'll take a look. But at the moment we are going to concentrate on this law, Regulation 12. Look, Regulation 12 says dia ada Regulation 12 Part 1, Part 5, 12 Part 1A, Part 1B. Look, let's go through from the bottom first. This is 0. All right, no problem. Now, the law says, by observation, look at this. We are allowed at any time and at any period or duration of time, shade number 1, maximum. 0 and 1 under this law is allowed. Dia tak sama dengan Regulation 1978 tu. Yang itu this allow sampai Ringelmann number 2, remember? Sekarang ni allow sampai Ringelmann number 1 saja. And more than 1 lain cerita. I will come to that. Now, Ringelmann number 1 ni by transmissometer, reading dia bawa less than 20% opacity. That is Regulation 12.1 subclause A, Regulation 12.1 subclause B. Nampak? So this is the regulation and that is subclause B. That is the regulation. This is allowed. This color, if you take a look, number 1 is almost like you don't see smoke, okay? Just shadow of something like heat wave coming out of the smoke. So it's coming out of the chimney. That is the the most you could see lah kalau Ringleman chart number 1 ni. This is allowed. So strict, isn't it? This is allowed under this new regulation, which is not called black smoke or dark smoke. It is called opacity. Alright, boleh ya? So, kau tim dah. Yang itu okay, tak ada masalah. Kalau tak banyak asap, because of, banyak kilang sekarang ni dah tak banyak asap because of some other, they change the fuel atau they improve the stoichiometry of combustion atau they have better control of the combustion chamber. Banyak teknologi yang digunakan to improve the emission. Now, that is technology. Put it aside. Let's talk about Ringleman chart number 2. Ni apa pula ni? The law says, which law? Provision under Regulation 12A. Regulation 12 subclause 2 part A. Regulation 12 number. And Regulation 12 subclause 2 part B. There you are. What does it say? What does it mean? Apa maknanya? I'm not going to read the law for you because it's very wordy, and I think you should have the law by your side right now and try and read the law. Okay, I'm explaining the law. We can. Any premise subscribing to this law can emit smoke any color with shades number 2 for 5 minutes in 1 hour, the most. In 1 hour, only 5 minutes is allowed, but not every hour 5 minutes. Look. But in the total of 1 day, which is 24 hours, only 15 minutes is allowed. So kalau 5 minutes an hour, 24 hours dah banyak minit kan? So this law only allow 5 minutes in any 1 hour up to number 2, not number 5, number 2, 5 minutes in 1 hour, but in 24 hours, 15 minutes only. And usually it is allowed during this condition. This is quite common, startup condition. Now, be honest to me. Kalau you pakai boiler, bakar pula fuel wood chips, atau some of you pakai fuel apa? Coal. Atau some of you pakai fuel apa? Palm kernel. Atau some of you pakai apa? Fibers and whatnots. Banyak lagi, you know, or light fuel oil, medium fuel oil, heavy fuel oil, even diesel. Okay, kalau pakai gas, lain cerita. Gas has got much cleaner combustion, but gas is very expensive. Okay, kilang kaya je boleh pakai tu. Alright. Now, in that situation, kalau you pakai kernel ataupun solid fuel macam wood chips ataupun sawdust dan sebagainya, and then malam itu pula hujan, the next day all this fuel basah, agaknya esok tu kalau you start up your furnace, start up your boiler dan sebagainya, boleh dapat ke color warna 2, opacity number 2. Dekat sini nak bincang. Sebelum you bincang dengan DOE, baik bincang dengan saya. DOE enforces the law, jangan main-main. So they don't have time to talk pujuk rayu ni. But they and there is no what they call, tidak ada kelonggaran untuk kita ni tidak faham undang-undang. No excuse for us not to understand the law. That is the law. Itu yang you kena faham betul tu. Now dalam hal macam ni, kalau you tahu that during your startup, katalah you ada satu plant shutdown for say 2-3 weeks. And then you want to start up your plant. You know that your fuel, even though you pakai diesel, apatah lagi kalau you pakai wood chips atau you pakai kernel, palm kernel, whatever, you know that you are not going to comply. You are going to what? Emit smoke which is very opaque as 3, 4, and 5. That is contravening this law. The law allows until 2. What do we do? This is where we can apply for contravention license. Boleh mohon lesen daripada jabatan dalam sekitar. They will calculate the loading and you will pay berapa ringgit per kilogram of loading of asap to the government. And then you are licensed to pollute for that startup period only. Not forever and ever. For that startup period only, you are allowed, unless with license lah, dengan syarat ada lesen, kita boleh menggunakan lesen itu only on that particular day or only on that particular days, maybe 2-3 days. Maybe your fuel combustion equipment kadang-kadang nak stabilize is quite difficult. It's a big, especially when you talk about huge combustion chamber. Dia nak dapatkan convection current and the heat setting and the walls of the furnace ke apa ke, dia belum dapat lagi achieve the heat retention yang design. Kita akan hiccups emission. So understood, alright. So the law allows number 2 opacity only during startup, or in other words 5 minutes per hour. Number 2 opacity, not number 5. Okay, dah. Now what about number 3? Okay, and number 4? What happened to this? And number 5? Look, listen carefully. Sub-regulation 12.3. Kita bincang ni. Sub-regulation 12, sub-clause 3. If our emission opacity is 3, 4, and 5, meaning above opacity 2, we are obliged to, tengok, jangan terus pasang, tengok dulu, measure the dust load. See, why I say loading? Because it is mass over time. How to get this? Your contractor datang to your factory, pasang, panjat ni, nampak stack ni, panjat ni, buat isokinetic stack sampling ataupun any other sampling. By the way, my friend, the law tidak stipulate kita mesti guna isokinetic stack sampling. However, isokinetic stack sampling is known to be the most accurate sampling technique. Okay, I will talk about this later. And DOE has got a team using isokinetic sampler. So we'll talk about that later. All right, now come back to this. 2.5 kilogram per hour. How you measure it? First, the contractor must take a sample and look for concentration. It could be gram per hour. All right. Sorry, gram per cubic meter. All right. Katalah dia measure gram per cubic meter. That is concentration. Mass per volume. Now, dia kena multiply dengan flow rate, which is volume per unit time. So, katalah dia dapat volume 10 meter cube per hour. So, darabkan aja, so you get kilogram per hour. The meter cube will cancel out, right? So, you have got mass per hour. Now, the law says, so this is the most important thing for your contractor to do. Dia kena cari what is called pollution load. This is called loading, air pollution load. See that? Do you see that? Now, the law says if we are emitting 2.5 kilogram per hour of dust, that amount of dust, the load of dust is 2.5 kilogram per hour more, see, more than, let me check the law, I believe it's more than, sorry, 2.5 kilogram per hour or more, meaning that is the value. If you get 2.5 kilogram per hour, you are subjected to this, what? Requirement to install the, what we call, transmissometer. CEMS is another version of transmissometer, continuous emission monitoring system, that is not only able to measure opacity but will be able to give you the dust load. However, dust particulate, total particulate matter is part of this regulation as well. We'll come to that. So back to this, remember, your contractor can measure for the dust load. So when the opacity is more than 2, 3, 4 and above, automatic, your contractor got to come and take sample and look for, calculate the dust load by measuring concentration and flow rate. Got it? Boleh follow, simple, isn't it? And then when that happens, automatically under regulation 12.4, we have to install transmissometer, and then the law says according to DOE specification. Now, how this is done, you pilih lah whatever type of transmissometer that you want to install. Remember I said about the equipment structural drawing, the catalog, about the meter, and then your purchase or order or your quotation from the supplier semua ni, tentu ada specification that comes along with them. So get the supplier to furnish you with a good enough documentation explaining about the transmissometer. There are variants out there, banyak kan, and most importantly, averaging time is 1 minute. What's averaging time 1 minute? I think those yang dah ada CMS dah faham sangat ni. If I'm wrong, correct me lah. You can set this equipment to read a data at one impulse of 1 minute. In 1 minute, 60 seconds kan, dia akan buka impulse to get a sample, satu sample saja in 1 minute, and then the next minute satu sample. All right, that's the averaging time of 1 minute. So you can set that, okay, for your record, for your monitoring data. So this is what the law wants us to install, a transmissometer. And what else? And if we don't want to install regulation 12 subclause 5, the DOE may instruct Prime Minister to install by issuing a notice under this regulation. Notice under regulation 12 subclause 5, hereby the Director General of Environment hereby require you so and so to install a transmissometer in your stack number 1, 2, 3 and 4. Failing to do so will what they call, will lead you, will lead to judicial action in court. Maximum penalty in court, 100,000 or 5 years makan minum free. But now, if you look carefully at this law, the emission is no longer about black smoke, but it's about opacity. And here it is really a technology which is involved, enhanced processing technique, which no longer generating or emitting black or dark smoke like we used to see, like I used to see in the 1960s and 70s. These are all what they call factories that is emitting all sorts of smoke, and most of them are so dark that when I was cycling to school, I have to inhale a lot of them, especially I cycled to school those days, and when buses and lorries passes by, is all full of hydrocarbon black color and smell like, and these people made it into company CEO and CEO today. Semua sebaya-sebaya saya ni semua naik basikal pergi sekolah dulu, kena asap hitam. Dan juga you tengok anak-anak dia kilang kelapa sawit, fantastic, because the smoke is biodegradable. Now let's come back to this one now. So any question on opacity? I believe this is well understood because we are now getting deeper and deeper into the law. Kita dah sampai dia punya cortex, belum sampai mental lagi, sampai cortex of the law. So I hope this is clear enough and comprehensible by everyone. Let me see if I miss anything. All right, so let me repeat. It's no longer about black smoke. It's all about opacity. Remember, consultant kena datang ambil sample for the concentration and flow rate, and then they have got to come up with the calculation of how much kilogram per hour of dust which is being emitted from our stack before anything else. That data is most important. That particular pollution load flow rate is not done every month. That is not the monitoring, all right? The monitoring is done by the transmissometer or the CMS. And the report is submitted to DOE manually or online. All right, that's about it. So, thank you for watching. That's the best I could explain for the time being. I hope it's clear, and I hope you are able to share this video with your colleagues and other people whom you know might be in need of the explanation. Even consultants, even contractors, you can submit this to them, no problem. And please subscribe to this YouTube channel, because once you subscribe, you're able to get a pile of all these videos, and you can assemble them and arrange them and do your own training. All right, I don't, as I said earlier in my first slide on this, I don't reserve any copyright of my work. I learned from somebody before, and when I was with the DOE for those years, I learned from the industries, I learned from my colleagues in the DOE, and in fact, I learned a lot from one person dekat DOE, tu nama dia Datuk Dr. Abu Bakar Jafar. I'm not sure where he is. Kalau you jumpa dia, cakap Khalid Kiam Salam, that guy is the best thinker. And now what he was saying in 1980s is that he is even more advanced than this transmissometer, much more, even more advanced than the CMS. And we have shared a lot of thoughts together, but he was a boss those days. So thank you very much for that. Kim salam dekat Datuk Dr. Jaafar kalau you jumpa dia, and I hope he's well. All right, saya dah tua, I'm not sure. Takkan dia makin muda kan? So thank you very much for the time. I wish everybody Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Until we meet again in the next slide. Take care.